Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at an article about Microsoft's new open source AI agent. It's for web automation.
That's right. It's called Magentic-UI. And the article really makes a case that it's, well, pretty different from the AI tools we've seen before for online tasks,
Yeah, the source digs into this big frustration people had with older AI agents, right? You'd give them a task.
like booking a complicated flight or, pulling data from a bunch of different websites.
And it just felt like a black box. You couldn't really see the plan or the steps it was taking. It just went off and did something.
Exactly. That lack of visibility wasn't just annoying. The article points out it was a genuine risk.
Especially for sensitive things online, yeah.
Totally. Think about giving an AI payment details or letting it run code on a site when you have no idea how it's planning to do that.
And you couldn't easily jump in if it messed up.
Right. That whole push for full autonomy, kind of excluding the user, often meant the results were just unpredictable or sometimes plain wrong.
So this new one, Magentic-UI, the article says it's built differently, more collaborative.
Precisely. That's the core idea highlighted in the source. It's designed specifically for collaboration. Not the AI doing it all blindly, but working with you
Keeping you in the loop.
every step of the way.
Okay, so our mission here is to unpack what Magentic-UI actually is, how it tries to fix those problems using this human AI teamwork.
And what specific features make it stand out? Like, what does this really mean for how you might use AI to help you online?
Makes sense. But first, let's really nail down those problems with the old way. The source was pretty clear. Lack of transparency was number one.
Definitely. You just didn't get insight into its process. The plan it came up with, the actual steps it was about to execute, it was all hidden.
Which naturally meant you had very few chances to, like, step in or fix things if it went off track.
You were kind of just hoping for the best, weren't you?
Yeah, and the article really hammered home the risk aspect, critical errors in sensitive tasks.
Things like handling money, filling out important forms, running code snippets. That lack of visibility, that lack of control just made using those autonomous agents really quite nerve-wracking.
And prone to mistakes, costly ones sometimes.
And because the goal was always full autonomy, the end result often didn't quite line up with what the user actually wanted or expected.
The AI might have finished something, but maybe not the right thing or not in the right way.
Exactly, because you couldn't steer it.
Okay, so there was this clear gap between what users needed, especially for complex tasks, and how these autonomous agents worked. How does Magentic-UI try to bridge that?
Well, its whole design philosophy, according to the source, is built around this idea of real-time co-planning and sharing the execution.
So the focus is really on step-by-step oversight by the user.
Yes, it's less go figure this out
Right.
and much more here's the plan I'm thinking of, what do you think? Let's tackle this together.
That feels much more practical for tricky online stuff. The article mentions 4 key features driving this collaboration. What's the first?
The first one they talk about is co-planning. And this is a big shift. Before the AI does anything, it actually proposes a sequence of steps.
Okay.
And critically, this plan isn't hidden away. It shows it to you, the user. And you can look at it, you can change steps, delete steps
Before it starts.
before anything runs. So you get full control over what the AI intends to do right from the very beginning.
So you see the roadmap first. It addresses that transparency issue head on. What about once it actually starts doing things? The source mentioned co-tasking.
Right? Co-tasking is about the live execution. You see the whole process happening in real time in the browser.
So you're watching it work.
Exactly. And if something looks off, maybe the AI gets tripped up by a pop-up or a page doesn't load right, you can
Pause it. You can pause the AI.
pause it, tweak the step it's on, or the article even says you can actually take over and do that specific step yourself if you need to.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So real flexibility during the task.
That's the idea. Control during execution.
Okay, so you shape the plan, you can intervene while it runs. What about stopping those dangerous mistakes like accidentally submitting a form too early?
That's the third feature, action guards. The system is designed to recognize actions that could be risky.
Like closing a browser tab? Or hitting submit?
Exactly. Or interacting with sensitive data fields. For those kinds of actions, it's built to actually stop and ask for your confirmation.
Ah, like a little, are you sure? Prompt.
Pretty much. It's a safety net, helps prevent accidents, and make sure you're okay with actions that might be hard to undo.
Smart. Adds a layer of safety. And the last feature was plan learning. How does that work?
This is how it gets better for you over time. It learns from your interactions, especially the feedback you give and the changes you make to its plans.
So if I keep fixing its plan for a certain type of task?
It remembers that. Next time you ask it to do something similar, it uses that history to create a more refined plan, one that's closer to how you like things done. It gets more personalized.
That makes a lot of sense. Adapts to your workflow.
Mhm.
Now, how does all this collaboration actually work underneath? The source mentioned a team of agents.
Yeah, it's not just one monolithic AI. It's structured as a modular team with different agents specializing in different
It's
things.
like a little digital crew.
Kinda. You've got the orchestrator agent.
Yeah,
That's the central coordinator.
the boss.
Basically, yeah. It takes your request, figures out the overall plan, makes decisions, and tells the other agents what to do.
Got it. Then there's the WebSurfer.
The WebSurfer handles everything in the browser. Clicking buttons, navigating pages, filling forms, seeing what's on the page.
Okay, makes sense. And the coder.
That one gets called in if the task needs some scripting or maybe some calculations. It runs code, but in a safe, sandboxed environment.
Secure. Good. And the last one was file surfer.
Right. If the task involves reading a document or getting data from a file, the file surfer handles that. It can analyze files and pull out the info needed for the web task.
Okay, so walk me through the flow. I give it a task.
The orchestrator comes up with a plan. Then, crucially, it shows you that plan in a graphical interface, the GUI.
Where I can edit it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you say, okay, looks good, the orchestrator delegates the steps to the right specialists, WebSurfer for browser stuff, Coder for code, File Surfer for files.
And they do their bit and report back.
They do. The orchestrator keeps track, decides what's next, continue, maybe repeat a step if it failed, or ask you for input if it's unsure or needs that action guard confirmation.
And I see all this happening live and can stop at any time.
That's the design. Full visibility and control throughout.
What's really interesting is how the article mentions this structure allows for an adaptive task flow.
Yeah, that's a key benefit. If it hits a snag like a broken link or something unexpected on the page,
It doesn't just crash and burn.
no. It can pause, flag the issue, and potentially work with you to adjust the plan on the fly, rather than just failing silently. That makes it much more robust.
More adaptable to the messy reality of the web. Okay, conceptually, it sounds really promising. Collaboration, specialized agents, adaptability. But how did it actually perform? The source mentioned the GAIA benchmark tests.
Right, GAIA. It stands for General AI Assistant. It's a benchmark designed specifically to test AI on complex, real-world type tasks involving web navigation, understanding documents, that sort of thing.
And the results, what did the numbers show?
Okay, so when Magentic-UI ran these GAIA tasks completely on its own, its success rate was 30.3%. Not bad, but not amazing for complex tasks.
But then they added the human element.
Yes. When a user was available to provide help when the agent asked for it, the success rate jumped dramatically. It went up to 51.9%.
Wow, hold on. From 30.3% to 51.9%.
It's 71% improvement just by having a human available to help at critical moments.
That is a massive difference. It really underscores that collaborative point.
It really does. And they also found it performed better, up to 42.6% success in more complex simulated user scenarios compared to running totally alone.
But here's the kicker, right? The worry might be that collaboration means you're constantly having to babysit the AI. How much help was actually needed for that big performance boost?
That's what's so interesting. The source says user help was only needed in about 10% of the tasks overall.
Only 10%.
Yeah, and for those tasks that did need help, it only asked for assistance an average of 1.1 times per task.
Okay, wait, so a tiny bit of help, just 1.1 nudges on average for only 1 in 10 tasks.
Led to that huge 71% performance increase.
That's incredible. So you're not constantly intervening, it's just asking for help strategically when it really needs it. What does that tell us?
Well, it strongly suggests that for these complex real-world scenarios, current AI still has definite limitations. Blind spots where human intuition or context is just invaluable.
Right.
And maybe instead of pouring all resources into making an AI that never needs help, which is, incredibly hard, building one that's smart enough to know when to ask for that specific human input is a much more effective approach right now.
It's about augmenting the AI, not necessarily replacing the human judgment entirely.
Precisely. It leverages the strengths of both.
Beyond the core features and those striking test results, the article mentioned a few other things, like a saved plans gallery.
Yeah, that sounds useful. It lets you save successful task strategies you've used before.
And reuse them.
Exactly. The source claimed this could make repeating tasks up to 3 times faster, which would be great for those repetitive things you do often, like filling out the same kind of form or scraping data from a site you use regularly.
Definitely see the utility there. And security. We touched on action guards, but were there other measures?
Yes, the article emphasized a couple of things. Browser actions and any code execution happen inside Docker containers,
So they're isolated.
right? Creating a secure sandbox helps protect your main system and your credentials. You can also apparently restrict which websites the agent is allowed to access using an allow list.
Ah, so it can't just wander off anywhere.
And importantly, they mentioned Microsoft's internal red team testing, where security folks try to break it.
Did they succeed?
Well, the article states that Magentic-UI successfully blocked or required user confirmation when faced with simulated phishing attempts or prompt injection attacks.
Prompt injection. That's like trying to trick the AI with sneaky instructions.
Yeah, basically trying to get it to do something harmful or unintended by manipulating the input. So having defenses against that is pretty important for AI safety.
Good to know they built that in. And just for context, where does this fit in Microsoft's bigger picture?
The source positions it as building on Magentic 1, which was an earlier multi-agent system they released. And it's all based on their Autogen framework for building AI agents. So it seems like part of their ongoing work in this area.
And people can try it out now.
Yep. It's open source on GitHub and available through Azure AI Foundry Labs.
Okay, so let's wrap this up, bringing it back to our mission for this deep dive. The main takeaway really feels like Magentic UI signals a shift in how we think about AI automation online.
Absolutely. It's a move away from that pure, sometimes brittle autonomy towards something that's fundamentally built on transparency, user control, and safety,
Right.
by deliberately keeping the human involved.
The loop, yeah.
And the big benefit, as those tests showed so clearly, is you can get these massive productivity gains, that 71% jump, with what turns out to be surprisingly minimal human intervention,
Yeah.
just applied at the right moments.
So connecting this back to you, the listener, think about those tasks you do online. Maybe complex research, maybe tedious data entry, maybe filling out detailed forms over and over.
How would your experience change if you had an AI agent that worked with you like this? Showing you its plan, letting you watch it work, asking for your okay on big steps, asking for help when it gets stuck?
Compared to just, sending an autonomous agent off and hoping for the best, maybe worrying about what it might mess up, it feels very different.
Much more like a reliable tool, maybe. Less like a gamble.
Right. And it leaves us with this really interesting thought, drawing from the contrast the source sets up. Where does true efficiency in AI automation actually lie?
Is it in that relentless push for complete, maybe even blind autonomy, hoping the AI will eventually be perfect?
Or is it in building systems like this where maybe a little bit of focused strategic human oversight unlocks significantly better, more reliable, and ultimately safer results for the complex tasks we face today?
That's the core question, isn't it? And Magentic UI seems to be Microsoft's bet that for the real world right now, collaboration is the smarter path forward.